Okay, we are officially live, so I'm gonna make sure I'll double check on. Let me go here really quickly. I think we're officially live. Let me just double check, make sure. Yeah, I think we are officially live, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Welcome, everyone. We're glad that you are, hopefully you're tuning in. If you are watching, please feel free to go ahead and drop we'll have your name, but drop where you're from, where you're watching, and you can always share the local temperature, since I think we might be coming out of this cold stretch that the US has been facing. I know we've got people from Canada and other parts of the world, but and if you are one second, I'm going to turn that off to have a double play there. And Yeah, so we're super excited to be here and welcome everyone. So yeah, I'm going to go around the room, and tonight this tells you I wasn't 100%. Oh, yes, the conversation tonight is going to be about why apply and wait is dead and what actually is working in 2026 for your job search. So, super excited to have this conversation. And I see we've already got John in the audience. Ken is here, but I need to send him the link. So, Alan, I am going to pass this over to you. Introduce yourself and give your first tip of the night, and let me get the link over to Ken.
Sounds good, Melanie. Hi, everybody. I'm Alan Kirshner. I'm a career coach based in New Jersey, and we had a balmy 36 today, so we're definitely coming out of the cold spell. But I help people with job search strategies, interview prep, salary negotiation, LinkedIn profile optimization, and resumes. And the tip is that just applying and waiting is not being proactive, and you really want to be proactive in the job search, which means you want to get yourself out there, be visible on LinkedIn. We'll talk probably a lot about networking, but it's really important to get out there, talk to people, especially if you can do that in person. And the more people that are part of your network and know what you're looking for, the easier it's going to be for them to help you and to pass along information, referrals, connections, and anything that might be really of help to you.
And Charlotte, please introduce yourself.
I'm Charlotte Taylor, a career coach and resume writer, LinkedIn profile writer. Um, Also have a couple of digital courses that I've written. Um, I'm based in Central Florida, and my tip would be, being qualified isn't enough. In today's job market, where there's dozens of qualified candidates for each position, sometimes hundreds, um, it's important that you strategically differentiate yourself. When you sound like everyone else, you're forgettable. And that's not a good thing. After and they've read so many generic resumes and cover letters, if they don't stand out and show your personality or show your passion for what you're doing, the hiring manager forgets you 5 minutes, you know, after they go on, to the next resume. And it's not because your resume is bad necessarily, just because it wasn't uniquely you. So that's my tip to start us off.
Love it. And for those that don't know who I am, my name is Melanie Mitchell Wexler. I am a former recruiter, executive career coach, and also a LinkedIn strategist. And I would, of course, agree both wholeheartedly with both what Alan and Charlotte said. I would also quickly add that having a specific job search strategy, what was once a world where, you know, I'll be honest, like even for my own job search and going back to 2017, if I think about it, that's when I started seeing the job market itself kind of start to shift and change, where referrals were not coming as easily maybe as they once did. And so you do need to be very specific about the direction that you want. Where do you want to work, or where do you want to work? Who do you want to work for? The type of role in your audience needs in your branding materials, whether it's your LinkedIn profile, whether it's your resume, needs to speak to that. There is competition, and obviously it is coming down to nuances in interviews, and so you do have to know, like, how are you standing out, and how are you having yourself seen. So hey, Ken, and our host with the most is here officially. So we are
Yeesh.
super excited to have you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm gonna actually do, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass the mic over to you and have you introduce yourself as we talk about why waiting and applying is no longer going to get the job done in 2026 to land you your job.
Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks for hanging in there with me too, Melanie. It was so weird. I kept hitting a link in the coach's messages, and it just kept going back to the beginning. It was like Groundhog Day. I kept hearing you saying, "Is this on? Let me make sure we're on." So thank you for getting the right link to me. And hi, everybody. It's good to see you all. Hi, Alan. Hi, Charla. So we're talking about why applying online and waiting is dead. Did each of you introduce yourselves? I think I heard that.
Yes, we've got all
Yeah,
our
we did.
introductions done. You are up, sir. So
Okay.
you can
All
take the
right.
lead on that.
All right, thanks. So just for my introduction, I'm Ken Schur. I'm a career coach, executive coach. I do some keynote speaking, and I'm an author. Wrote a book called What's Trust Got to Do with It? Transforming Leadership, Culture, and the Job Search. I'm excited now, too. It's available on Kindle. That just happened for me, so I'm excited about that. But regarding just posting online, I guess there are just a lot of things wrong with it. But we know, I think the percentages, maybe one of you mentioned that really only about 5% or less jobs are landed that way. So it doesn't mean you should never apply online, but it means that you probably shouldn't spend a whole lot of time there. But let me start with Alan then, I guess. Alan, so what is it possible to stand out when you're applying online just randomly, or what's one of the big challenges you see?
Yeah, I would say it's very difficult to stand out when you're just applying online. It's like, you're putting something in and it's being looked at by an applicant tracking system. So you're not getting seen by human eyes necessarily. So it is definitely difficult to stand out. So that's why the whole concept of networking and trying to find an alternate way to get in by a referral or figuring out who the hiring manager is and trying to get a resume that way is an easier way to stand out, especially if you know somebody who knows the hiring manager who can vouch for you. So I would say it's definitely a challenge to try to do that when you're just applying online.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to, get into like, here's how you do it. But the reality is sometimes you have to, right? If the job's posted, maybe it's been up a few days, you haven't found anyone you could connect with, you're really interested in the job. So maybe we could take just a few minutes, and we're not going to spend too much time on how can you perhaps successfully apply online. So Melanie, is there any way that you've seen that works, or as a former recruiter, anything that caught your attention when you were reviewing resumes that just came in randomly?
Yeah, so I do think that you have to have I call it a multi-prong strategy, truthfully. I mean, I will be very honest with you. I actually did, I did create this topic because I think it is relevant. But I will be very honest. I just had a client that got an offer, and it's because we identified a position that was very strategic for him, and he got requested for the interview. So it does happen, but again, do you want to put it all eggs in one basket? Here's one thing, and this is going to go against some of the grain of what other career coaches will tell you. Recruiters don't really share this information. So there's one thing I'm going to point out is Jay just mentioned in the comments, before applying, think about the opportunity. Is it for me? I think Jay is absolutely in the right direction for that. Like, how do I match the qualifications? And we do know that this job market is extremely tight. So one thing I want you to think about is as a funnel. And recruiters like to go to the very bottom of the funnel to start off with, because that's their job. Their job is to find it, and I think, and this is something I used to tell my own staff, our job is not to find the candidate a job. That is not the function of a recruiter, okay? The recruiter's function is to find the best talented person or persons for that company. And so they start at the bottom of that funnel. They're going to go so nuanced of like every single detail, what, quote unquote, the perfect candidate. Now, there's no real perfect candidate per se, but if you could find somebody that has all the qualifications and the personality, okay, I want to emphasize this: personality, how you speak to people, how you respond, how you communicate, all of these things do matter. And so they do go to the bottom of the funnel and then work your way up. That being said, I know there's a lot of people out there that will say, hey, get in on that first, 24 hours. Truthfully, I will tell you, as a former recruiter, that's the bulk of the time that I'm getting the bulk of my applications that are coming through the system, to be very honest with you. That's when it's spiking. And that is when I'm using keywords, because I have to be able to filter it down. I have to get to that bottom of that funnel. And then I actually tell my clients not to really stress too much about it. Now, yeah, if you're 2 weeks in, I would honestly tell you, if you see a posting that's a little bit older, I would actually start with a hiring manager, with the team. I would actually go more a networking approach, because their odds are the interview process has already started and you're coming in late to the game. Now, the position may remain open because it could have a date that it just has to expire in terms of its posting. Remember, these are things are like they put them into the system, then it's automated out to the website, then it gets picked up by job boards, things of that nature. When they pay for a job posting on LinkedIn, they pay for a specific period of time for that job posting. So there isn't like, so what they are, keeping job posts up because they may not have something that is, they're ready to replace it with a new one, or there could be a variety of reasons. I actually love the 72-hour window. So it's like that 3, 4, 5th day. Why? Because I know as a recruiter, I go in, I open my email first thing, then I go to my ATS system. Don't fear the ATS system, folks. There's so much, I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of crap out there right now about it's the big bad machine. And the reality is this, it's not what a lot of people try to tell you. There's a lot of fear mongering of all things about the ATS. Could it be better? Absolutely. Could it be worse? Absolutely. And I can tell you how it could be worse. But one of the things that 48 after that 72-hour window, I have less applications, because guess what that means then? If I only get 10 applications on that next day, I'm literally reviewing each one of those personally. I'm not even using a filter. I'm not even using keywords. I'm literally going resume, resume, resume. And that's how, so don't get, if it's in that don't be afraid not to apply, because it still does work. My client just accepted an offer, and it's actually a job that I helped him find. We were doing some search, but to Jay's point, it was a very nuanced search. And that's the thing, even to Charlotte's earlier point, I'm encouraging my clients, we've got to niche down. We've got to niche down, and we've got to hone in on your specialty, because that's what's going to make you stand out. So yeah, there's my soapbox. Sorry, Ken.
That was well done. I appreciate that. I want to ask you one thing before I go to Charlotte, though, just because of your experience with the ATS. If someone applies online, they apply their resume, can they attach their cover letter, even like as the first page of their resume? So when they open it up, it'll be a resume. Does that work, or is that something?
I would tell you not to do it, because the cover letter, usually the reason recruiters don't always see it is because this is a little bit more nuanced depending on the system. It usually is in a separate tab. It's usually not attached, but that can also get potentially, it could hurt in terms of like not having the right keywords in it. So if it does ask for a cover letter, basically here's the deal. If it is asking for a cover letter, that means their system is set up that they have a tab on each candidate file that has like cover letter. And so that cover letter sits there. And so I wouldn't attach it to the resume. I would keep your resume pure and clean with the direction that that it goes in. So
Okay, because I was just thinking, if everybody's applying online and just submitting their resume, a way to differentiate yourself might be to include your cover letter, even if they're not asking for it, as part of your resume. But you're saying that you don't think that would work, even if it was the third page of that submission?
if it got to the, I mean, even if it's the third, it's not gonna, like, here's the deal. It's not gonna kill you. It's not gonna hurt you. I'd probably definitely, if I were to do it, I would do it as the third page, not the first page.
Okay. All right. Like I said, just looking for ways to stand out, maybe be a little different. So, all right. Thank you for that. But so Charlotte, being I think, resident resume queen, how do you write your resumes if someone does have to submit online, they have a better chance of being seen?
Yeah, and I just want to chime in. I would also agree that if you're going to do that strategy, do it on the third page. But it's much more effective if you apply online. If they don't have a place for a cover letter, then you research, find out who the hiring manager is, or at least who the talent acquisition manager is, and reach out to them personally. If they're not active on LinkedIn, use a service like hunter.com, or use a service like Voila Norbert or MailScoop. All three of those will verify email addresses for you. And then you can say, I've applied online through your company portal, but I wanted to reach out to you personally and let you know how interested I am in this position. I feel my skills in blah, blah, blah would really allow me to hit the ground running. Something casual, doesn't have to be too formal, but then you have an inside contact that's pulling for you. Maybe you have a friend that you used to work with who now works at the company that you're applying for. Get them to hand deliver your resume to the hiring manager. Anytime you can make that personal contact, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and leave a voice message. Introduce yourself. The hiring manager has the ability to go to HR and say, would you please pull this resume? So it's taking a lot more. I said being qualified isn't enough. Differentiation is what matters. It's about fundamentally changing how the organization perceives your value. When you have a generic AI-generated resume, you're seen as a commodity. You're seen as replaceable, interchangeable. So that's not a good place to be. You want to be seen as uniquely valuable. You want to compete on impact. And that's why accomplishments are so important to your resume. If you have a resume that really strategically positions you, you're going to differentiate yourself and land a great role because you're building upon your qualifications. You're also aligning strategically with what the employer needs. So I use a value framework, and just it's pretty quick and easy to understand. Value stands for 5 key elements. The V is verify the need, show you understand that company's specific challenges. A is align your qualifications, connect your experience to their requirements. This is done by, really studying that job description, by talking to other people, by doing your company research and understanding where they're positioned in the market and what challenges they might be facing, how you can help them solve those challenges. You want to lead with your results on your resume. Always quantify your impact. any way you can show that you made money, saved money, and improved processes. If you're in healthcare, maybe it's you improved revenue cycle management or direct patient care, whatever it is that makes you more attracted, more attractive candidate to the company. That's what you want to lead with. So we had VAL. U is unique differentiators. Highlight what makes you different. And E is really enthusiasm and fit. You want to show genuine connection to that company's mission. And so I have an AI prompt that took me like 3 days to get it fine tuned to where I can go in and do company research and tell you, oh, so many things about the company. What are their products and services? What market are they in? How do they compare with their competitors? Also, that competitor list gives you a whole nother list to go through. Look at their financials. Are they positioned for growth? Look at the tenure of the employees. If they're turning over every year and a half or so, that's probably not a good environment to work at, to work from. So there's so much more than just words on a paper. Your resume is that piece that connects you as a person to another person. And you have to kind of write for the actual human that's going to read your resume, using those keywords in context. But please don't stuff your resume with keywords just for keyword's sake. That's not going to get you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I kind of went on there. Hope there was something of value in all that.
I think there was lots of value in there. Thank you for that. So I think we've spent enough time on that because, like I said, if 5% of jobs are landed through posting randomly online, you should measure your time that way and spend the least amount of time, not no time, but the least amount on that, and then more time on the other things. So we're going to do that here too. I think we gave enough attention to posting online, and I think there were some good suggestions from all three of the coaches. But I think all three of the coaches also stated that that's kind of almost a last resort. If you have to apply online, that's your last resort. So Alan, let's say you have a person, I see a job, I love the job, I think I'm a great fit for the job, but I don't know anybody at the company. So what do I do? How do I not just apply for the job?
You can first look at your LinkedIn connections and see if somebody has somebody that they are connected with at that company. So that would be a way of doing it. You could also check with alumni, go to alumni page for your college or university to see who's there, who might be somebody that works at that company potentially. So I think those would be a couple of opportunities. And also you can just research who's at that company too and try to connect with them. I mean, the networking component is good before you actually see a job and you want to learn more about the company and develop a relationship with it. So it's harder, if the job comes up and you're just looking at people that work for that company to try to say, can you give me a referral? People aren't going to do that because they don't know you. But it's, we're talking a lot now about being proactive about the job search as opposed to being reactive. So I think it's a good idea to try to come up with a target list of companies that you're interested in and start laying the groundwork and planting the seeds by connecting with people that are there, by following the company and things like that. So I think, it's a little bit late when you just see the job that comes up on the board. But if you have a strong network for one, you look at that, look at the alumni that are, on the pages for your college and see if anybody's there. And, the third thing is try to find somebody that's there at the company that you're looking to apply to, and just don't say, can you refer me? Because that's too much of an ask, but just see if you can find out more information about the company and the organization and develop some rapport with somebody there.
That's great, Alan. That's some good advice to find people any way you can. And Melanie, when you find these people, like Alan suggests, I think it's a great suggestion, people who are connected to people at the company. But what is it you actually say? Like, how do you get them to want to help you? And then once you get connected to someone and you're in that conversation, what is it you're talking about?
I mean, I first think the thing that you have to do is you have to do some fact finding. And so if you're connecting with people, finding out, gathering information, like what's the understanding what their hiring process is, understand that every company has a hiring process. And so to that degree, employees are asked to follow that, hiring process. So be respectful of that, some people may actually not know as much about it, but also understand too, if you're asking somebody that is in a completely different department, they may not have any clue who the hiring manager is in the department that you're looking for. They may not have any interaction with that department. So I always say lead with respect, lead with gratitude first and foremost, thanking people for their time. And then the conversation should go depending on what, have a purpose. So recruiting is very much 90% sales, to be very honest with you. So, when I was training my recruiters, one of the things was like, what is your goal of this conversation? And so the same technique has to be used for you. What is the goal of the conversation? And so whether that is, I want to find out more about the companies, what's happening in the company, or I want to find out more about this department. And then you can ask, like, who should I speak with? Who should I reach out to? Who would be the proper contact that you would recommend that I make connection with? Can I give them your name that we spoke? Always ask for permission to do that. Always ask for permission. Don't assume. And they may speak to you, off the quote unquote off the record. Again, they, not that they're, it just may be the policy that they're not in a place that they're, but they want to help you. So just always be respectful of it and outline your goal. Every single person you're going to talk to is not going to be able to be a referral. Every single person is not going to be able to make an introduction. And so understanding how does this person, by building in a connection and by building a relationship, how does this person help? That sounds kind of bad, but how do they help you? And then at the end of it, how can you help them? And if you're unemployed, don't assume that you can't, do the same. Offer to say, hey, if you would like, if there's anybody that you need an introduction to, is there anything that you're looking for, a resource or something like that I might be able to help you with? So never underestimate the value you can give back, but always appreciate the value that somebody can give to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. And I think that's the key too, is appreciate and show appreciation. Let them know that they know that that they're going out of their way or they're giving you their time. And I think that's important. Charlotte, to get even more specific, what are the words that you would be talking about? I mean, I think Melanie, implied at least.
I wrote a post, I guess it was last week, about a networking brief. And this is what I propose that you do. Understand who your top 5 companies are. Go ahead and do as much research as you can find to determine which person would most likely be your hiring manager. You create a networking brief. It's simply a 1-page letter that shows who you are, the type of role you're looking for, the top 5 companies you're interested in, and beside that company list, the names of a few people that you would like to meet within that company. You walk into an informational interview or even a virtual interview, and you send that networking brief to the person that you're meeting with. And then when they say, how can I help you? I was hoping to be able, to meet, this person at this company. who might be able to tell me what it's like to work there, or might know who the hiring manager is. People are willing to help you if you ask open-ended questions. Who do you know at ABC company that works in software development? They can think about that. If you ask, do you know anybody at this company? That's a yes and no answer. So that's not going to get you anywhere. So really practice asking those open-ended questions and doing a little bit of the legwork for them, so that, hey, I don't know that person, but I know someone who does know, um, all about that company. Let me introduce you to them. So you're not hitting them with a, do you know anybody who can find me a job? Do you know anybody who can hire me? You are, really showing that you're focused, that you understand where you're going, where you want to work, and who you need to meet. And that goes a long way, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's very purposeful. You're not wasting time or wasting people's time. So I think that's great. Um, Alan, but the reality is a lot of people, most people have 500 plus connections. How many of them do we really know well enough to say, would you introduce me to somebody, or whatever? So how do you get past that?
One of the things I say is it's important to keep connection with your network when you don't need them. So one of the things that I like to do is try to, when I see somebody has a service anniversary or a birthday or something, I like to just send them a greeting. If they get a promotion, I like to send them a greeting as well too. So it keeps you more, top of mind, if you will. If you haven't had any contact with them in 10 years, it's a little hard to just, say, hey, I know we haven't spoken a long time, but there's a job that's open. So I think you have to nurture and develop the network too. It's also, I think Melanie said this in the past, you have to be kind of, aggressive about what you're doing. So you have to take some risks and some chances. And, if you see somebody out there that you haven't talked to in a while, just say, I know we haven't spoke for, quite a while, but it was, checking in to see how you're doing. And then also, I have some interest in the company that you work for. So I wanted to just see if I could chat with you for maybe 10 or 15 minutes to learn a little bit more about the organization. So like they say in baseball, you don't hit, you don't get a hit from any of the pitches you don't swing at. So it basically, you have to take some chances and give it a shot. And, sometimes it's going to go well, and sometimes somebody isn't going to respond. But, if you don't try, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's you got to kind of get over it, really. I mean, it's but and if you think about it, think about the end game. Yeah, it may be embarrassing. I haven't spoken to them in 10 years, or they know why I'm calling or writing. But what's the alternative? Not doing that and not giving yourself the best chance for a job isn't it worth a little embarrassment to put yourself in a position to land a role you really want or you really need? So I do think that you got to get out of your comfort zone, and you got to do things that maybe you don't love doing. But again, I always say to my clients that networking is not about asking for a job. You're really asking for advice. You're asking for guidance. You're asking to learn from them about their career path, the company they work for, the industry they're in. Getting an idea of what's going on there. And then when you do ask for that guidance, it's a little easier than saying, can you get me a job, or can you get me in front of that hiring manager? They may offer at that point anyway, if you have a good conversation with them. Let me go back now to Charlotte. I'm going to go back around the loop here. Is there I had a question for you, Charlotte. I'm losing it. Hang with me. It'll come back.
Okay. I have 2 resources I wanted to share before I forgot them.
Thank you.
I spoke
Yes.
with Joe Parada today. He is the CEO of a company called simpleapply.ai. And what I like about that one, and I'm not a big easy apply person, you know that. I usually avoid them, tell my clients to avoid them. But he has his program set to where you upload a primary resume, and then you determine what percentage of a match rate you want to have the AI go out and look for jobs for you. So if you set the bar kind of high, 75 to 80%, you know that it's going to pull applications, job postings that you are qualified for. And it's an aggregator. It goes out and scrapes, all the job boards, but it has that comparison feature. It does not change your resume. It sends the resume that you have uploaded. So in this case, you would upload one that truly matched your ideal job target. And then what I like about it on an individual basis is that you have the ability to say, manually approve which ones you want it to apply for. It doesn't go out and blast your resume to 100 jobs that, I mean, it could, if you said, blast it to, anybody that's over a 40% match rate. That's not going to get you anywhere. So it helps you be more selective. And nice guy. Company is simpleapply.ai. So I would encourage you to investigate that. And it does have a coach's dashboard too. I'm just don't have the volume to, subscribe to a monthly subscription. But, especially when I can refer you to that. In all fairness, I would make a small, maybe I might have enough money to buy a cup of coffee after 5 people signed up for his service. It's not anything big, but I would encourage you, if you're going to try one of those easy apply things, try simpleapply.ai.
Okay, great information. As always, you always have great resources, Charlotte. Melanie, let's say you don't know anybody. You don't know anybody there. You don't know anybody who knows anybody there. You don't know anybody who doesn't know anybody who doesn't know anybody there. I think you know what I'm getting at. And I understand, and I know Linda said it in the comments, and you agreed about sometimes you do have to post. Don't discount it completely. But is there anything you can do to still break through and maybe make some kind of connection? And I'm going to ask you, beyond just finding someone at the company and sending them an email or a LinkedIn message, anything else they can do?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And so first I want to establish, so you don't know anybody, right, Ken?
Yep.
And so trying to be funny, folks.
I got it.
Thanks, Ken.
I was a little slow on it, but I got it. I appreciate it.
Fine. I was trying to be funny, but okay.
It was. Once I got it, it was funny.
It was, yes. Thank you. So in that case, so I have a client. She is pivoting out of education, actually going into customer success. And one of the things that, her network is not going to be highly tied to customer success. It's just not. And a lot of, educators, things of that nature, are not necessarily going to is going to be able to really help make introductions and things of that nature. So one of the things we did was we started to establish, because all pivots are hard. I always tell my clients, because I really do work with a lot of people that are usually in some sort of transition or pivoting to new industries. And so it's just, all pivots are hard. It's just some are 30 degrees and some are 180. So, they take a little bit longer. What we did is we created this very strategic list of companies that customer success companies that focus on the education area. And I did use LinkedIn for this, but really went out and we created this list and had her start connecting with anybody and everybody in this space. We looked for former teachers that were in this space, and literally what she started to do was, like, her goal was to create, like 5, coffee conversations a week, or, something along those lines. So we had a very specific goal, and the whole thing was, okay, I need to find out How did you make that transition? What was it that clicked for the company that you're working for today, or maybe that first company, if depending on how far down in their career. So her goal really in that case was to learn from other people. Now, obviously, if we're building these relationships and we're connecting with these people, we're now we are now a direct connection to all of, well, and I'm talking LinkedIn speak right now. When you connect with me, it's not so much that you connected with me individually. Yes, I love to connect with you, so thank you. Please feel free to do so. But what happens is now you're a connection to all of my connections. So I just helped you expand your reach. And on LinkedIn in particular, that's extremely powerful. So being smart about who you're connecting with, you should still use discernment in regards to that. And so what that does is that actually gives her more exposure to people in her feed. Now she can go and comment on posts. That's another great way to get recognized. If you go and comment on somebody's post and you're leaving your thought, and not just like, you know, oh, I totally disagree with this. You know, you have to think of yourself as strategic as a potential employee. And how do you want to show up in that office? How do you want to work with other people? Ask questions. Treat the post almost like your own post. So ask a question. See if they can reply back. If they don't, that's okay. Maybe somebody else will, but I guess what? There's visibility there. And that visibility allows you then to connect with that person. And now you can simply say, hey, I really liked your post on such and such. I'd love to connect. And build that relationship. Yes, I'm not taught. Yes, I understand job seekers. We need jobs immediately in some cases. Absolutely understand that. But understanding too that, and I'm not talking this has to be a long drawn out process either, but there is some nuances in it. And remember how you're showing up on, not just LinkedIn, but other social media platforms. People are watching. So how are you talking? How are you speaking? How are you are you giving that presence that you are a leader? If you're a senior person, are you knowledgeable in your field? So there's so many other ways that you can gain that visibility, but you need to be smart about it. You need to make sure that you're interacting with people and, really following through. That's the other thing, is the follow through. Staying in touch. I think that's the biggest mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to networking in general, is they don't do the follow-up. They say, hey, I'm going to, put it in your calendar, remind you, okay, follow up with, Sue Jones, in 2 weeks. Now she may not have any new news, but guess what? You did follow up. And that actually may mean more to her than you realize. So I think it's just really important for people to realize, there's activity to your job search that isn't related to just applying. And I think we would probably, all four of us, agree, we're not looking for you to apply to hundreds of jobs. And if we know if that's happening, then we have to look at we have to look at the resume, we have to look at the LinkedIn profile, but we also have to look at your process. We have to look at the jobs you're applying for. You have to use discernment, and you should, truthfully, I don't believe there's 100 jobs out there right now on the market for any one person to apply for. Why? Because then that's not being discerning in terms of applying for a targeted position.
Yeah, well, I think that's excellent advice. And, Alan alluded to it, I think, as well. A lot of networking is not directly job related, and it's not necessarily going to get you short-term gains, but you should always be networking. And once you land your role, put it in your calendar, put names, maybe once a quarter, once every other quarter, different people you might want to stay closer to than others. Just check in with them, let them know how you're doing, see how they're doing. Just keep connected. You're going to work hard to develop your network while you're looking for a job, hopefully. And don't fall back into not keeping it going, because just remember how hard it is to build. So keep it going once you land your job. And I think Alan was saying that earlier. When you're not looking for a job, still reach out to people, see if you can help them. My gosh, you help somebody else out. That's a great way to have someone feel like they want to make sure they help you out too. So I think that's really important information for sure. Alan, I'm going to get back to you then. What networking things have you seen that have worked? Anything like specific communications or maybe things people have mailed to people? In the old days, I remember hearing somebody sending a sneaker to somebody, and the note said, "Now that I have a foot in the door, I'd like to bring the other foot in and talk to you about a job." I don't think that stuff works anymore. But are there any things you've seen that work that are that help people stand out?
Yeah, sometimes people talk about, with a thank you note, for example, sending it out via regular postal mail also. So, trying to be unique, I think is helpful too. But, with people hybrid and not necessarily all back to work in the office, you don't always necessarily know. So I would say, again, I'm a big advocate of trying to meet people in person. So there's more things that have come back, professional associations, job seeker support groups, and other things, alumni gatherings. So I think it's really helpful when you meet face to face and you develop some rapport and relationship with people. So I encourage people to do that as well too. And even you could go to meetups just for activities and things that you're interested in, and you get to talking to people, and inevitably it comes up, what do you do for a living, or where do you work, or something. So I think that thinking about getting together in person, I think, can be really helpful also. One of the things we haven't talked about a whole lot today is that being active on LinkedIn and posting content on LinkedIn, or sharing, other things that you see on LinkedIn that you like, and putting your comments related to them as well too. So I think that's something that can be really helpful, being active on LinkedIn. Again, it seems like the algorithm has changed now, where it has to be more geared toward, what you're interested in, what your specialty is like. So you want to be a bit selective of who you're applying and commenting toward, or the type of content that you're sharing. It used to be just, you want to be active, and it didn't matter what you were doing. So I think LinkedIn has become more sophisticated with AI. So that's important too. So I would say being active both online, i.e. via LinkedIn, as well as being active in person as much as you can. I think those are things that can really help create traction for you, and have the ability to have more success also.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Yeah, I think and also Charlotte mentioned earlier too, maybe ways to find people. And I think hunter.io, I think was what you had mentioned, to find people to be able to maybe send those handwritten thank you notes, or maybe something else that might help you stand out from the crowd. Charlotte, how about you? Have you seen anything from a networking perspective that you find to be especially effective?
I've had clients who were sending voice messages as thank you follow-ups, or video messages as a thank you. That's something that you can do without a handwritten note. I guess I'm old school. I still prefer a handwritten note that, I would suggest that you go to a coffee shop after your interview, write the notes to everyone you interviewed with, take them back to the receptionist and ask her to, deliver it in interoffice mail. But a nice follow-up video would be, a great touch. Not everybody's doing that. I use a tool called When the View. It's a online career portfolio and a video messaging system. The cool part about that is it has a personal URL. So it's private. It's not for the whole world to see. I work with a lot of executives who don't want their job search broadcast. So this gives you control over who sees your career bio, the video messages that are on your When the View profile. So that's one thing. And I would just reiterate, the most successful job seekers, they aren't applying to the most jobs. They're being strategic. They're leveraging their networks. They're optimizing their job search documents for both AI and human readers. And we haven't talked about it. It could be a whole hour in itself, but use AI with discretion. Use it as an assistant, as a research assistant. It's not a replacement for your authentic voice. So, it's a muse. Sometimes when I have a really long accomplishment and I want to get it down to 2 lines, I'll put just that one accomplishment into AI and ask it, for a better way, more concise way to do that. That's a good use of AI. But just to put the job description in there and tell it to generate a resume, you're going to sound exactly like everyone else. And it's so important that you have that human voice. So use it as a tool, but don't use it as your professional writer.
Thank you, Charlotte. That's great. Excellent information. I think, the key with all the job searching is figuring out a way to stand out from the crowd. So different ways, whatever way you can find that would work for you. We're about 4 minutes before the hour. And Melanie, how about, do you want to give a final tip and then tell people how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm going to go off a little bit of what Charlotte was saying in ways to stand out. One thing that I'm not, there's an app called Gamma.app, and you can actually take like your LinkedIn profile. You can take your like your resume, for example. And I get told by my job seekers all the time, I don't have anything for my featured section. And I always push back on it. One thing you can do is you can drop your resume into this, and it can create a slide deck of like images based on your resume, that it doesn't look like a resume. It looks like you're actually giving a presentation. So it like extracts like highlights and achievements. So if you saved, $100,000 on this project or things like that, it gives like really quick snapshots. I just did this for a client of mine. She's an HR professional, and we did like a little bit of a kind of senior level bio on one of the pages, and then had some highlights and achievements, had a call to action. So it looks like looks like a slide deck or a Google presentation, things like that. So one of the things that that's a way you can stand out, by adding that to your featured section. Visually, it changes how you don't have to put your resume up there, but visually it looks very professional, and it captures somebody's attention, and that draws in the eye. To Charlotte's point too, you could do a video on LinkedIn. You could do a 1 minute to 2 minute, get to know who I am video. You can put that on your featured section. Featured section sits at the top of your profile. So, just reposting like reposts and things like that, that's not going to get the attention that you want. But you can do 1 or 2 of these things, and yes, everything I just said may push you out of your comfort zone. But I think Ken or Alan, I think Ken, you said that like in our job search, the only person that's going to be your best advocate is you. That is bottom line. No matter if you hire a coach, you have no matter if you've got your feelings about recruiters, whatever, the only person that's going to be your best advocate is you. So you have to push yourself out of that comfort zone. So I will end my speech right there and say, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn. So please feel free to reach out and connect with me if we are not already connected. And yeah, that's usually the best way. I do put out a weekly newsletter every Thursday on LinkedIn. I also have a private newsletter that I also send out. I'm happy to include you on that if you're interested. So just message me.
Okay, great. Thank you, Melanie. And Melanie, excellent career coach from all different angles and with all different kinds of people. So definitely check out what Melanie has to offer. Thanks for being here and for great input again tonight, Melanie. Alan, how about you?
I would say my final tip would be consistent. It's important to stay with the process, come up with a process that's efficient. And I think we've kind of beat it to death a bit, but don't spend too much time just applying to things online. But similar to what Melanie and Linda were saying, my last client or two have gotten jobs through applying to things online. So don't negate it completely, but don't spend 80 or 90% of your time doing that. But the networking is very key, because people like to hire people that they know, like, and trust. So it's developing that level of connection with people, and you do that via networking. So I think that's really a critical thing. So I would suggest that you spend a significant amount of your time developing relationships. If you don't like the word networking, which one of my clients doesn't, it's really relationship development. So it's important to develop relationships where people know you, where you can help them, they can help you. And that's going to be more likely than not the way you're going to land, though I can't say it will be 100%. So the best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn. You can mention that we met through Career Coaches on Call. Always glad to connect. And if I can help you with your job search, would love to do that. And thanks to my fellow coaches for another great session today.
Great. Thank you, Alan, and thanks for your great contributions as well. And I think you and Melanie, and maybe me and Charlotte too, mentioned you got to get out of your comfort zone. And you might think, oh, I can't do it. But isn't looking for a job in and of itself pushing you out of your comfort zone? I mean, nobody wants to be there. That's not a comfortable spot. So you're already there. Just go for it. You don't want to look back and say, oh, I wish I would have put myself out a little more. I would have had that opportunity. So again, thank you, Alan. And Charlotte, how about you? Last tip, and how can people get in contact with you?
My last tip would be that quality, personalization, and persistence win over mass applications and generic content. Although the Simple Apply AI did advertise that they have an interview to application rate of 1 interview for every 8 applications that they submit, or you give them permission to submit. So that might be a cool new tool that you could try out. The job market may have changed, but the fundamentals of standing out haven't. So be strategic, be polite and persistent, and most of all, be you. Because, if you're holding back, trying to be what you think they want you to be, that in itself is way out of your comfort zone. And you wouldn't want to go to a job that wasn't the right fit for you. So remember, they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them. So to find that right fit and that win-win combination. I'm launching a networking course. I actually pulled the module out of my super long job search course because I feel like that networking piece is the one that most people are the most uncomfortable with. And so if you're interested in that, DM me. I'd be happy to send you more information or book a call. You can usually find me on LinkedIn from 9 to 5. My website is writtenbyapro.com if you're interested in that networking cohort. I have just started the waiting list. I'd like to have maybe 5 to 10 people. It's going to be a small group. I think it needs to be so that we can refine your message and share in a safe space. So that's kind of the goal for that. Thanks so much.
Hey, great. Thank you, Charlotte. And again, besides your excellent tips in general, the resources you provide always are very beneficial to everybody. So I hope people take advantage of that. And then, as for me, I would say that, like, I guess I've kind of been saying it all along, you've got to forget about feeling like you're going to embarrass yourself or you're being too pushy or whatever. I mean, you certainly don't want to be obnoxious and, overwhelming to people, but you've got to go out of your comfort zone. You've got to ask people for help. You've got to talk to people. And think about if someone asked you, if someone called you and said, can you help me out? I need some information. I would guess you would probably say yes. I mean, it's hard to turn people away. So, some people are going to not respond at all. Fine. Just keep moving on. Don't let it get to you. One other thing, a tip, I guess, in terms of standing out, and I just put it in the chat, although it's not showing up on the Restream chat, but if you look on LinkedIn, I did a video on my phone, a LinkedIn video message to you all. And you can send that to anybody. What you do is you go into the message on your phone, click on message. There's you find the person you want to send it to, and then there's a paper clip next to the kind of message box. You click on that and it'll say you want to add a video or a photo. And you can add a video and really personalize it. And what I say in the video is, how many of these have you received? And I'm guessing, I would bet nobody has received one of these, at least in the last few months, weeks, whatever. So that's really a way to stand out. If you could find the people that you need to, a recruiter or hiring manager, if you could find them and do that, that could be something you might want to try. Anyway, I want to thank my panel members, the coaches here, Melanie, Alan, Charlotte, you guys are awesome. I hope everybody, and I also want to thank our, I think Melanie, Charlotte, and Alan, we may have to share all the money we're being paid for this program with Gregory and Linda and Merrill and Jay, because they're always here with us, always supporting us, and that's really appreciated as well. So I hope everyone has a great rest of the night, and we'll talk to you again next month. Until then, be well and take care. Good night, everybody.